Hi guys, Psychic Medium Sarah Lemos here, and it's a new day. Thank goodness. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about being an empath. So again, as a psychic medium, I get a lot of questions about um, different clairs or different gifts that people have, different senses that people have, different ways of growing as an individual. I get that all the time. And I get asked, what's it like to be an empath? Because that is my truest gift. I am a feeler. I'm someone who senses everything through feelings. But I also get physical feelings, sharp pains, or the way I experience my mediumship is actually experiencing the death of the person who has crossed. So, one of the things I do as a medium when I open myself up to spirit is I allow them to touch my shoulder and let me physically feel how they passed. So that's using my empathic gifts to give a reading. Now, some people don't want to give readings. Some people aren't, they're like, I'm good. But why do I experience the world like this? Why do emotions and feelings uh, literally stop me in the world around? Like, I can't go to the grocery store, or it's very difficult for me to go clothes shopping. Why is this so hard? Why do other people enjoy vacations to California and I run? It's the idea of constantly breathing in someone else's emotion, constantly being physically affected by emotion. And what can we do about it, and how can we use it to live a better life? Because you were gifted this for a reason. You were gifted this very much so for a reason, which is awesome. And it's also just simply how you see the world around you. So this is how you are creating connection in the world around you. This is what you're seeing, this is what you're experiencing, and this is how the world will affect you. Now, most of you, sadly, have been made fun of. You've been told you were too sensitive. You've been in relationships where they question why you cried so much. We truly love with all of our hearts. We are very open with our emotions. We know no other way of being. I remember being told as a child to stop crying a lot, but that's how I expressed my emotion. That's how I expressed what I was feeling. So, what some of you might be experiencing is you don't watch TV because the news is upsetting, or you don't watch certain programming because it's too scary. You will explain it with emotion. It startles me. I don't like the way it feels. You probably don't read the newspaper, and you also probably do not like the news feed on Facebook, where it's constantly posting things about, let it be about what's going on politics, or maybe it's abused animals. But that really affects us as empaths, as clear feelers. We have a hard time with that. It's very difficult for us to experience emotion being thrown, because that's what's happening as we're going through the feed on Facebook. It's the emotions being thrown at us, and that's very difficult. It's very hard on us. So be aware that there's probably a good chance also that you pull away in relationships. So once you've been hurt enough as an empath, you will learn a technique of just pulling away. I will also tell you that a lot of empaths or clear feelers will take or use drugs. They will drink too much, or they eat too much, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to self-soothe all the time. And so, believe it or not, because you're absolutely beautiful, you are absolutely gifted, you're absolutely this incredible creature that feels all the time, you have chosen, of course, because it also hurts, and it doesn't feel good to be told you're too sensitive all the time, that you find coping skills, not so great ones, to cover up feeling. And so for me, this is very, very, very true when it comes to food. So for me, food and I have always had this dance, because I don't drink. It's just not my gig. And so food became this comforting, this thing that comforted me, this thing that helped me feel better, because I just didn't want to feel. I didn't want to feel anymore. I wanted a break from feeling. And I'm sure some of you completely understand this. Something that an empath will always say, or a feeler, clear feeler will always say is, this is too much. It's simply too much. You guys always say that. We always, I get to say, I'm one of you. We say that a lot. It's simply just too much. And we get to these places where we feel like we just need to shut down. So I have two really cool things to tell you, and I will tell you further along in this talk, but two things that can really help you as a sensitive live a better life, a life that is less overwhelming and more truer to yourself. So I'll be talking about those two things coming up real shortly. But the number one thing that I would suggest is be okay with your emotions. Become okay with feeling. Be okay with being more sensitive. Honor your feelings. Ask your feelings, what are you here to teach me? So if you're feeling sad, don't run from sadness. Stop and ask that emotion, what's going on here? What are you trying to tell me? Write it down. Okay? So if you're having an emotion, that emotion is there to tell you something. It is your gift. And write it down. And if it feels right to you and that message feels right to you, then get into action. And that's where you'll find where you're not so much an emotional mind, but you're more in your logical mind, and you'll find your way to definitely a balance point, which is beautiful. So using your emotions to create connection to your thought process and then get into action is where, as an empath, we get stuck. We tend to get stuck in looping over and over again, doing the exact same thing because that feels good. We don't tend to leave situations that are abusive, neglectful, destructive. We don't. And the reason we don't is because it feels normal. We get into a pattern, and once it feels okay, we don't want to shift those feelings. I'm sure some of you really understand this. Not healthy, not okay. But so when you have an emotion, let it arise within you, question the emotion, ask what it has to teach you, and then move forward in an action. That's my suggestion for you. So those two things that I told you I would talk about, here they are. First of all, you want to make sure that the emotion is yours, because as an empath or a clear feeler, a lot of times the emotion is not ours. It belongs to somebody else. Honestly. That what we're experiencing could honestly be something that someone else is feeling that is in the next room. Or if you're in an apartment complex, good gravy, even next door. So one of the things you should always do is ask yourself, is this my emotion or is that somebody else's emotion? How do we know the difference? Well, if I'm feeling pain in my chest and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having such pain, such sorrow in my chest, and I say to myself, is this mine? And it dissipates, it goes away, then I know it's not mine. If I then say out loud, is this somebody else's? And it comes back, then I know to let it go, because it's not here to teach me anything. I don't need to wear someone else's emotions. That's not going to even help me as a psychic. That's not going to even help me as a medium. If I'm not in a reading and I'm not getting paid to do that, and it is not a part of my process, I'm not carrying somebody else's emotions. And that is okay. And that's not going to change my gift. And it's not going to make me less of a sensitive. It just means I get to have rules. I get to have rules on what works for me and what's best for Sarah. So being an empath is very overwhelming. It's hard to go to the grocery store. It's hard to go to the gym. Things that help me is break up emotion. So how do you break up emotion? Emotion that attaches to me, or things that I am continuously feeling and I can't keep saying, is this mine? Is this yours? Is this mine? Is this theirs? What I have to choose to do is break it up. So believe it or not, vibration breaks up that frequency. So it can break up emotion really quickly. So you can do things like snap your fingers, clap your hands, put on some music. You'll notice that it's crazy how good music will just start making us feel better. Well, I think also it's because it's breaking up that additional emotion and physical feelings of being an empath, because we get physical pain too. Most empaths have more doctor bills than any other clair. And that's because we always think something's wrong with us. And so then we go to the doctors, and which you always should. But then we come back with no diagnosis. Excuse me. There'll be no diagnosis for us. They'll be like, I'm not sure what's going on. So know that you can experience a lot of physical pain also is an empath. It's not just emotional. It's a lot of times it's a physical. And so taking care of yourself by doing yoga, drinking a lot of water, keeping yourself on a good, healthy diet. Because another thing about us is we have a lot of food allergies. Because our body knows what works for us and what doesn't. Now, again, we tend not to listen, but if we did listen, we could live an incredible life. Empaths are lovers. I love with every ounce of my being. I don't know how else to love. I care with everything that I am. I create a very comfortable home life. And I create a place of ease for others, which I think is a beautiful gift. But mind you, I don't have to carry their emotion. I can understand what they're going through. I can meet them at their emotion, but I don't need to carry anyone's emotion. Now that brings me to my final piece today, is that we also need to live in a very clean space. So if you are someone who is more of an empath, more of a feeler, they're clear feelings. You really do feel emotions of others. You really do feel, emotions when you go to the grocery store and it feels very overwhelming. You want to live in a very clean and very non-cluttered home. I made this choice to do several years ago. I'll be doing a YouTube video on that where I really did get rid of almost everything that I own. I got rid of so many things. Now, again, you have to do that over and over again because we're collectors as humans. It's what we do. Something shiny, we have to have it. But we live better. Empaths live better in a very clutter-free, minimalist lifestyle. We do much better in a minimalist. Now, I'm not saying don't buy something that you like. If you want a fancy phone or you want a nice computer or a nice piece of jewelry, or if you're a guy and you want a fancy watch, fine. But just realize you don't need 18 of them because things are energy and things collect emotion and they collect more energy. And when you're constantly bringing that into your space, when that's constantly here, you're going to pull away. You're going to want to push away. And it really has to do with stuff. Stuff really affects us. It's that simple. If you have a house full of things and you don't know why you can't get rid of your anxiety, I always tell people check out feng shui. Check out feng shui because that's where you will notice a big shift in your life. And also, I have another video here on YouTube that's all about a detox bath, which is really helpful for empaths. And that whole video explains it all. So hopefully you've enjoyed today. If so, please subscribe and also like the video because that's helpful. And plus, it'll help you get more of my awesome videos that are going to be coming up every single week, where we take a peek into the world of metaphysics and we walk the path that we need to get to spirit. And a lot of times that's the path right to ourselves. So I'm sending each and every one of you tons of light and love. Enjoy your week.